So what does it mean to work upstream? Effective prevention takes place at all levels of what's called the social ecological model, as well as across the spectrum of prevention. On the left-hand side, you see the social ecological model with the individual, relationship, community, and societal levels. The social ecological model understands that an individual's relationships make up and are a part of and dictated by the community and the society that they live in. An example of prevention at the individual level may include personal attitudes, values, and beliefs. Prevention at the relationship level may mean looking at close social circles such as family, friends, and intimate partners. Prevention at the community level looks at neighborhoods, schools, churches, and workplaces. And prevention at the societal level looks at laws, policies, and widespread social norms. Prevention is a relatively new field, and most prevention that has already happened has been at the individual and the relationship level. For meaningful change to happen, prevention needs to engage with every level of the social ecological model as well as the spectrum of prevention in order to maximize impact and effectiveness. On the right-hand side, we see the spectrum of prevention. This goes from strengthening individual knowledge and skills, promoting community education, educating providers, fostering coalitions and networks, changing organizational practices, and influencing policies and legislation. We must address prevention at all levels of the spectrum, as well as the social ecological model, in different ways using different strategies in order to have effective prevention programming. As you've heard me mention already, primary prevention aims to lower risk factors and increase protective factors in a community. Risk factors increase the likelihood of violence, but are not the cause of violence, and protective factors decrease the likelihood of violence. So let's look at some examples. Here are some examples of risk factors at each level of the social ecological model. It's important to remember that these are not the root causes of violence, but they do impact behavior. Some risk factors at the individual level include unemployment and heavy drug and alcohol use. Some risk factors at the relationship level include a lack of social support, poor communication skills, and others. Some risk factors at the community level could include poverty, weak social community sanctions and response, and low social capital. And risk factors at the societal level could include inequality and unhealthy social norms. On the other hand, here are some examples of protective factors at each level of the social ecological model. While these don't ensure that violence doesn't happen or protect completely from violence, they do decrease the risk and likelihood of violence perpetration and victimization. Some protective factors at the individual level include financial stability and education. Some protective factors at the relationship level include social support and connection. Some protective factors at the community level include high social capital, access to resources, and strong community sanctions or response to violence perpetration. And some protective factors at the societal level include laws and policies that address inequality. The following two technical packages are outlined strategies from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Division of Violence Prevention. These guides inform prevention work and are evidence-based best practices in our fields. Social norms impact our willingness to intervene in a situation that could lead to violence. They are expectations of behavior that can be healthy or unhealthy, and primary prevention aims to replace unhealthy social norms with healthy ones. An example of an unhealthy social norm that impacts violence perpetration is that men should have power and control over women. And a healthy social norm that could protect from violence perpetration is that men and women are to be treated as equals and no person should have power and control over another person. By taking an active approach to changing social norms through primary prevention, we can work towards having communities free of domestic violence and sexual assault. This quote from the Institute of Medicine really captures the magnitude of social norms and how they can impact whether or not violence or other public health crises happen. It is unreasonable to expect that people will change their behavior easily when so many forces in the social, cultural, and physical environment conspire against such change. However, prevention is possible. So, what can you do? Let's talk about some things that you can do to support primary prevention and keep our communities safe. Be an active bystander. An active bystander is a disruptor of a pattern or situation that may lead to violence. An active bystander challenges social norms and are there to intervene and support, not to save or rescue people. If you are interested in our bystander intervention curriculum, please reach out to us by emailing prevention@ccwcc.org for more information. Promote healthy relationships. Unlike unhealthy and abusive relationships that are based on an imbalance of power and control, healthy relationships are based on equality, which can be manifest in many different ways in healthy relationships, including communication, respect, trust, honesty, equality, personal space and privacy, and consent. Boundaries are limits that allow for safe connections between people. Boundaries are incredibly important in all kinds of relationships. However, it is important to note that boundaries do not exist to restrict people's rights, like their right to safety, freedom, privacy, and movement. Boundaries exist to keep people safe and to allow for safe connections and relationships. Practice and teach consent. This awesome resource explains consent with the FRIES acronym because everybody loves FRIES. Consent is freely given, meaning that there is no force, fraud, or coercion. It is reversible, meaning that the individual can change their mind at any time. It is informed, meaning that people know what they're getting into. It's enthusiastic, meaning that the individual should be excited and enthusiastic when consenting. Specific, meaning it's ongoing for every step. Every person has a right to say no at any point in a relationship. Consent is mandatory.